Hi, I'm Rev Myron. I'm a minister through Pathways of Light, and I've been a Course in Miracles student for over 40 years. I'm going through the text again this year, asking Jesus to clarify for me, and then I write from that clarity. And that's what I'm sharing with you today. So let's get started. We're reading from A Course in Miracles, Chapter 11, Section 2, The Invitation to Healing, Parts 2 and 3, Paragraphs 2 and 3. So Paragraph 2 tells us, healing thus becomes a lesson in understanding. And the more you practice it, the better teacher and learner you become. If you have denied truth, what better witnesses to its reality could you have than those who've been healed by it? But be sure to count yourself among them, for in your willingness to join them is your healing accomplished. Every miracle that you accomplish speaks to you of the fatherhood of God. Every healing thought you accept, either from your brother or in your own mind, teaches you that you are God's son. And every hurtful thought you hold, wherever you perceive it, lies a denial of God's fatherhood and of your sonship. The more I practice healing, the better teacher and learner I become. I do this in two ways. First, I learn from those who have gone before me. I think of the teachers I have followed, and my heart just swells in gratitude. There are some I followed consistently over a period of time, and some who have inspired me from time to time. They are all equal in teaching, whether they helped me once or many times. I read what they say and am inspired, but that's not enough. I must use what they say in order for it to be helpful to me. I must use it and let it become what I do and think and become. Regina Dawn Akers has been helpful to me in many, many ways, but one time that comes to me is this. I was in the middle of a virtual storm, a hurricane, and at the same time in an ego storm, and I reached out to her. She told me to let the storm pass. That's what storms do. I've used that advice often. I sit through the ego storm in patience and certainty that Holy Spirit is sitting with me and that healing is taking place. As a result, I'm not fearful when I'm in one of those storms. I know it will pass. And when it does, I will be washed clean of the thoughts that caused it. And this changed perception is a miracle. Kate Greaves has been a teacher who offers me healing thoughts. Recently, I read some of her postings in which she talked about not compromising. She woke up through A Course in Miracles, and she said she did it because she refused to compromise. Every wrong-minded thought goes to spirit for healing. There is no compromise in that. This has become my mantra as well. For example, while still working, I had problems with my coworkers from time to time. I struggled with those relationships, not wanting to give up being right and holding tight to the belief that I was being unfairly treated. It took way too much suffering to get my attention in a way that led to healing. Now I am fully involved in accepting the peace of God as my one goal. I refuse to compromise on that. I don't care what proof the ego brings me that the other person is wrong. I only want the peace of God. If the ego brings me evidence that my financial situation is deteriorating, I feel the echo of old beliefs and start to worry. Then I remember that the peace of God is everything I want. No compromise. My learning is twofold. I am both following others, accepting the gifts of their own healings, and I am practicing what I'm learning and making it mine. Each changed perception is a healing that reminds me that God is my Father and I am His Son. I'm very cognizant now that every hurtful thought leads me away from remembering who I am. I sit in the stormy thoughts of darkness, knowing that it will pass, and with it, the damage those thoughts caused. And I remember that looking at the thoughts with the Holy Spirit and asking for healing is my part, and I do not compromise on that. I allow the healing, and in doing so, I accept the atonement for myself, which is my only function. Paragraph 3 tells us, and denial is as total as love. You cannot deny part of yourself because the rest will seem to be separate and therefore without meaning. And being without meaning to you, you will not understand it. To deny meaning is to fail to understand. You can heal only yourself, for only God's Son needs healing. You need it because you do not understand yourself and therefore know not what you do. Having forgotten your will, you do not know what you really want. The reason awakening requires that we not compromise in accepting the atonement is that denial is as total as love. If I leave anything out, any person, any situation, any thought within my mind, if I deny the Holy Spirit anything, I will not awaken. Is there some part of my mind, even one single thought, that I want to keep separate from the Holy Spirit's healing transformation? Then I have not accepted the atonement, and I will remain in the dream. Is there one person among the billions that stand outside my willingness to forgive? Then I did not accept the atonement. Sometimes it can be subtle. I watched a show where the family, brothers and sisters and their families, were very close, outward loving, visiting each other frequently, praying together, and sharing deeply. I felt sad because I don't have that. My family does not interact in that way. In that moment of sadness, I was in denial of God and needed healing. I was choosing to let my ego interpret the situation. The truth is that regardless of appearances, we cannot be separate. And a story of separation is just a story. I saw the error in my mind, and I chose the peace of God over the sad story the ego offered me. It is always a choice, the meaning we give these thoughts. Physical illness seems like something outside our choice, and yet sickness is a defense against God, and therefore, on some level, we've made a choice for it. When I am sick or in pain, I remind myself it is a choice, and I choose the peace of God instead. Always, regardless of what seems to be happening, it is a choice between ego and God. The illness, the broken relationship, or other effects of separation thinking may already be in play. It's still not too late to make another choice. If I see myself as a victim of these circumstances, and if I project the blame for them, I've chosen ego again. If I accept responsibility for all that occurs and offer my mind to be healed of the thoughts that source the effects, I have chosen for God. I am totally responsible for everything that happens in the world because there's only one mind, and I am part of that mind. When I read the paper and see that someone is killed or robbed and I think that person is guilty, I've made a mistake. I am that person who killed and robbed. That is me over there, acting out the belief that I'm separate from God and damned for it. Seeing the criminal as something separate from me is denying our oneness and refusing to accept the atonement. Making fun of a politician's foibles, judging something I read on Facebook, speaking unkindly about someone, worrying about the weather or my finances and my relationships. All of these are ways to keep myself separate from my other selves. As I realized that what I was doing, I began to make a different choice, to choose God instead, one thought at a time. It would seem an impossible task and simply too overwhelming to be done, but each choice to not deny love helped me to see that there's only one thought appearing as many. Now my mind is quieter than before, and all ego thoughts are beginning to blend into one idea of separation. While it does still require my vigilance and my unquestioning commitment, it doesn't feel like an impossible task anymore. I allow the mind to be healed and the separation idea to be undone. So I know what I want. The stronger this feeling becomes, the easier it is to choose God. Thank you so much for joining me in this reading. I hope that you found it helpful. If you did, then please like it. And if you haven't yet, please subscribe. And I'll be back soon with another reading. See you then.